Hi, Rebecca.
Yes.
Hi, Jesse. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Just a heads up, we put on the website, we put on the consultation form, but just as a reminder, we've begun recording all our training sessions, all our consultations. We put them on YouTube. It's helped out a lot because of COVID. Just kind of let people know we're still operating and I know what I'm talking about.
Okay, perfect.
So I just read real quick over your form, reactivity.
Yeah, really bad.
Okay. Um, Go ahead and fill me in on it's a Basenji. I missed the name. What was her name?
Malachite,
Okay.
like the gemstone. Mal for short.
Okay. So
Um,
fill me in on Mal.
so I got her when she was about a year old, the pound said, uh,
Hmm.
from the pound. So I don't know what her life was like prior to me. I have reason to think she was abused before I got her, just because the way she reacted towards like people reaching towards her to pet her, and she's scared of very odd things like boxes and stuff. Like cardboard terrifies her, even though I don't know why it would. But so I don't know that she was socialized before. Um, I got her. I have a back, or I had a house with a backyard and like a doggy door and a fenced-in yard and everything, so she could run around there. And I used to take her on runs with me, but I guess since she wasn't interacting with dogs, I started to notice that like anytime there was a dog nearby and she was on her leash, she would like, it didn't just seem like dog curiosity, it seemed like aggression, like pulling towards them, like whining, like she wanted to like fight them. She actually broke off her leash once, which was terrible, and like sideswiped another dog. I think she like bit her nose or hit her with her claw or something, and then just kept running. And then she came up to me at our house. Like I went after her and got her. The dog wasn't seriously injured, luckily. Like there wasn't even a vet bill or anything. Um, since that incident, I've been pretty nervous about taking her out. So I just kept her at the house pretty much. I would run around with her in the backyard, play with her there, and just avoided other dogs at all costs. But now I'm in the city in an apartment. Obviously, there's dogs all around. There's dogs
Sure.
behind fences. She even tries to go from behind fences, and I can't keep her cooped up. But I'm scared if I take her out, she's gonna get off and attack a dog.
Sure. Anything else?
No, that's really it. She's great. Other than that,
Okay.
unfortunately,
Yeah, that's typically what I hear. My dog's great until.
yeah. Luckily, she's
Uh,
great with people. I saw there was like people aggression. She has no issues. She's great with little kids, strangers, everybody. So
okay. Um, so when you said when you first got her, she was apprehensive of people, but now she's otherwise opened up.
yes,
Okay.
because
Um,
obviously I don't beat her, so I guess
yeah.
she feels more comfortable now.
Okay. Um, have you worked with another trainer before?
No, no other trainers.
Okay. Did you do any research on us? Know what we're about, how I train, things like that?
The only thing I really saw was the e-collar thing,
Okay.
which I think it's not like an electric collar, is it? It's just like a buzz or something. That's all I really know about
Okay.
it.
Well, that's what this consultation is for, so that I can educate you how I would approach it, what the e-collar is, why it works, why it's effective. And then if you're apprehensive, I always tell people, because of COVID, like I said, we began recording everything, is I just go to our YouTube channel.
Okay.
Uh, and you can look up reactivity and you'll find any reactivity cases that we have to give you an idea. And then they're uncut. I'm
Okay.
very transparent. It's unkind. I'm like, look, this is the way I present it to people. In your cases, is simple, but when I deal with really severe aggression cases, I give people realistic expectations, minimum and maximum, and I'll tell them like this might pop up, and this is like the worst thing that can happen. And if they're like, oh, we can't do that, then I'm like, then there's no point in even trying because I don't know if it's going to happen or not. It's just a possibility because I've seen it throughout my years. So I always put in people's heads like, if you're not willing to handle this, then most likely it's not going to work.
Okay.
Okay? So the videos help just again with that transparency.
You said her case isn't that severe?
No,
Oh, great. That makes
I
me, I
mean,
was worried you're gonna say
there's
she's
always a way to stop it, and I'll cover that. Okay, and
okay.
I have an example to give you. So e-collar, in my opinion, is the best training tool. Okay. Most trainers approach it as it's the last resort.
Okay.
For me, it's the first resort. Okay. Because it gives me, I know with e-collar what I can achieve at minimum always. Always. Okay. And then it gets so much more. So, like, most dogs are trained using food. It's the most popular method.
I've been trying that myself. Obviously, I don't know what I'm doing that well. So,
It doesn't matter,
okay.
honestly. Like, even if you hired someone who was, where it was, a professional trainer does positive reinforcement, I get a lot of their dogs
Oof.
because it doesn't work. Okay. Realistically speaking. So, I know the ceiling on food is very low. So I'm like, why would I even use it? Okay. I use it for puppies. It's great for puppies under 6 months. Simple stuff. It's just a puppy. I don't care. But when we get into the realm of the world where you need your dog to not be reactive or non-aggressive or things like that, it goes out the window. The other tool would be like a prong collar, which is the spiky looking one, if you've ever seen one. Um, Better. However, if her reactivity is too far gone, with the prong collar, you would have to yank on the leash to create a biting motion to tell her that's not wanted. But if she's at like, a 15 in terms of intensity and your harshest correction is only an 8, 8 will never match 15. So you'll never stop it. Okay. Plus, it takes a lot more technical skill to use. Okay. So I'm like, all right, better. But again, if it's not the best, then why would I use it? That leaves me with e-collar. And there's other methods, but they're not even worth mentioning. These are like the most common. Okay. So dogs are physical animals. They bite each other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So like if a dog went up to Mal and she didn't like it, she would bite them or potentially bite them or snap at them to say, respect my space, you're too close. Okay. She's using physicality. Humans can say, hey, you're a little too close to me. Can you back off? Social distancing 6 feet, right?
Right.
Dogs don't do that. Okay. And it depends on the personality of the dog. So like, just like with humans, like some people are very patient and will like, like, all right, cool, I understand. And other people are like just very blunt, like, no, get away from me. Right. So same thing for dogs. It's Mal's personality. If she's established certain things, personal boundaries, thresholds, things like that, that's just Mal. Okay. But then there's coexisting in the world with other humans and their dogs. So I don't care if Mal likes other dogs. I just care that she doesn't lunge and bark at them when we're walking on the street.
Perfect.
That
Yeah.
she charge the fence and all that stuff. Okay. Now we can absolutely build to having her socialize, and you can even look again on my YouTube. I have plenty of clients whose dogs are reactive and didn't think they could socialize their dog, and I go, well, maybe not at a dog park because that's not realistic. There's too many unknowns there. But if it's your friend's dog that you would see on a regular basis, that's actually much more feasible.
I actually, yeah, sorry, I guess I should have mentioned that. I have gotten her
Yeah, I read in your form.
dogs in the house before.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, on the form, sorry. Yeah. So
no,
she doesn't
totally doable.
every dog. It's just like you said, the scenario, I guess.
Correct. So that's what's realistic, right? And those are two different things because I've had clients, their dogs are super friendly off leash, but on leash, they're very leash reactive. It happens a lot. It's super common. Okay. And there's like a whole thing behind it. But otherwise, again, like I don't care if she likes dogs on leash. I just need her to just behave herself. Okay. So um, with the e-collar, the reason again why for me it's so great is because now because of COVID, everything's verbal instruction. I coach you and you do everything. Okay. We've been training currently at Oz Park over in Lincoln Park, which is the busiest park in Chicago. One of my clients told me because she works with like the city. But it's the busiest park in Chicago. We got rollerbladers, strollers, dogs, off-leash dogs, bar mitzvahs, parties, tennis, baseball games, like everything you could imagine is going on at Oz. So we train there.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. So some of my clients, they live in a suburb. They're like, this is not realistic, but this is great because if I can do it here, I can do it anywhere else. Okay. And so most trainers operate, in a very controlled environment. You're in a room. you're closed off, or if there's other dogs, you're behind what they call blinders. So your dog can't see the other dog. Then when your dog blows up, they will like have you remove your dog. Like, I'm like, that's not real life. So we train in real life. Okay. And everybody's been doing great. And I rarely have to touch a dog. It's usually if there's like a 2-person exercise, but other than that, the owner is doing everything themselves.
Okay.
Okay. So I actually prefer this method because you're learning a lot more. I already know how to do this stuff, so it doesn't matter to me, right?
Right.
You're the one that's going to be living with her. You're the one that has her the rest of the day, the rest of the week, and all that stuff. So, and there's a structure to it which I'll go over, but it's essentially we play it by ear every class. Okay. So I know the first class for sure is going to be the leash walking exercise, heel. So my style of heel is very strict. It's if I take 1 step, the dog takes 1 step. If I take 5 steps, the dog takes 5 steps. Then when I stop, the dog automatically sits. And this is with the completely slack leash. And I don't care what the environment is.
Okay.
Okay. So that's why we're at Oz. Because if you can get it done with all this crap going on, then at home should not be a problem. Okay. So you're learning in a very realistic environment to prep you for life.
Okay.
Okay. So then you go and you do your homework. And then I see you in class 2. And the theory here is the discipline or the remoting, the e-collar, plus the task of what to do should resolve the reactivity.
Okay.
It doesn't always do so, but that's the approach that we take. Okay. So like, let's say we do class 1, come back class 2, and I go, how to go? You're like, you know what, Jesse, her reactivity is like 50% better. I go, great. That's a big chunk out the way. What are we struggling with? And you might say like, well, she still barks at dogs that bark at her. Then I go, okay, that makes sense. Because there's a spectrum in reactivity. Reactivity towards humans is like the first thing that almost always goes away. Okay. Then reactivity towards like humans with on bikes, rollerbladers, skateboarders, stuff like that, almost always goes away first. Then it's walking past calm dogs. Puppy type energy is like right in the middle, excited energy. And then other reactive dogs, and then sudden run-ins. So like when you turn the corner and there's a dog. Those are end of spectrum. Okay. Because one, if the dog's barking at her, it's putting out threat. So then she's going to reciprocate. Okay. So then we get the teacher to ignore that. Plus, if the other owner, if their dog's reactive, typically they want to remove their dog. So it doesn't allow you to always resolve the issue before they leave. So then your dog thinks my barking made that dog leave.
Oh, I see what you're saying. And in the dog's mind, if I bark, the dog will go away.
Correct. So then that's not uncommon. And then if you turn the corner and there's a dog, you can't plan for that.
No, that's what I'm most worried about. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I give you the tools and the information, the insight on how to handle these situations. Okay. Because I train, that's my specialty is I train for real life, because otherwise if it doesn't work there, then why even teach it? Okay. So, so that's the spectrum of reactivity. So if like, let's say 50% is done and then you're just struggling with like the reactivity towards other reactive dogs or the run-ins with dogs, then I go, okay, that's what I would expect at this stage. We make a couple of tweaks. We teach the second half of heel. Then I go, apply the changes. I'll see you in a week. You come back in a week and you might say, Jesse, even better, or you might say, it's the same. Okay. Then I go, no problem. Now this is what we're going to do. Okay. So it's a process. Okay. So typically when we do e-collar, people think that we come in and we just like zap the dog and make them yelp and all that stuff. That's not how it works. Okay. We use structure and discipline to see what does proper direction and formal discipline, and discipline is physicality, change for the dog. Okay. So like for me growing up, like I was raised old school, I was spanked. So like if my mom said like, don't do that, it was just like, whatever. And then I got spanked for the first time.
Yep.
Right? And then don't do that means something completely different now. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it's the same thing for your dog. So most people's form of discipline is like, no, right? Or yeah, whatever, you know, they get the treat to redirect. Dogs don't do that. Okay, they bite each other. So the e-collar is essentially what I call a bite on a button. Okay, it's physical. It's something that can break through her mental state if we're at the appropriate number. And it's what allows me to easily teach you but yet also get effective results from it where you're like, wow, this really does work. I'm going to keep doing this now. Okay. Because the other methods, people tend to give up very quickly because they have a very low ceiling. They don't work very well when you're in the real world. Sorry. Yeah. When you're in the real world, those things go out the window. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, have you ever been to a chiropractor or a physical therapist?
I've been to both, actually. Yes.
Okay. Have you ever had stim?
No, I don't think I know what that is.
That's the TENS unit where they put the little circles on your muscles and it moves the muscles.
Oh, no, I haven't.
No? Okay. So, have you ever seen those videos where they recreate labor contraction pains in men?
Yes.
Okay. E-collar is that.
Okay.
Okay. But they're obviously, because they're recreating labor contractions, which are very painful, it's at a much higher degree. Okay. But the technology is the same. So if you go to a chiropractor, physical therapist, and let's say you have like lower back pain or something, mm-hmm. They put these little circles on your back. They have wires and it moves your muscles. Okay. To either ease back pain or to break up scar tissue in the muscles. If you have any scar tissue there, they use it for rebuilding strength. So like if you've not used your arm for a really long time, you can't just get up and like start moving it. They use that machine. Okay. So e-collar is that device. People, when they typically hear about e-collar, they think shock collar, they think electrocution, they think electricity, they think sticking your finger in an outlet, and they go, it's not that at all. Okay. So the way I explain it is it's electric, but not electricity. Okay. So we use it similar to a chiropractor would or a physical therapist. They start low and then you work your way up. Okay. Because every person has their own range. Okay, so some people are very sensitive that even the lowest setting will make them like, ugh, it's uncomfortable. And other people are more resilient that you'll be very high on the machine and they barely are phased. Okay, dogs are very much the same way. Okay. So when we do this, what we find is what we call the working level. Okay, so like when you see the contraction, you'll see like a twitch like this. Okay, because that's where the collar is making contact. But you could see now, like looking over there at a dog and this, and like nothing is phasing her. Okay, but she's so mentally tuned into that dog that this does not matter. Okay, so the working number breaks through that focus. Okay, and it allows us to cut through so that she can actually understand what we're communicating, but we can also use it as a means of stopping behaviors. Okay. So the way I would approach this is first teach her how to walk correctly, my style, my level of discipline, and go, what does it fix? You might come back on that class 3 and go, you know what, Jesse, we're still struggling with this part of reactivity. Then I go, okay, now we need to provide consequence for the behavior itself. Okay. So my collar goes to 127 in digits of 1. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 127. Other collars go to 10. So the difference is 10 and 127 are the same, but I have 117 more breaks.
Okay, so
people always think 117 more low. Yeah, they think high. Yeah, no. The output is the same, but I have more divisions. Okay. So I can really fine tune it. So with the cheaper models, 3 could be too high and she's yelping, and 2 is too low, she's not listening. Right. Okay, that's the problem. So with the brand that I use, we can, 35, 38, 37, like what's going to be the number that works for her, okay? And it depends on the context. Every context is different. If you're walking through the park and there's nothing going on, then it could be 15. If you're walking to the park and there's everything going on, like at Oz, then it could be 75, okay? So the number is just a frame of reference. What dictates the number is Mal's behavior. Okay. Right. So human logic and dog logic is very different. Lunging and barking at a dog might be, for Mal, worth 127. Okay. But we have a means of stopping it. Okay. Now the way that I train is I want to stop it and not see it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that you're able to just have a life and not worry, is Mal going to bark at the dog that she sees next? That's how we approach it. Okay. In most cases, that's what we achieve. On occasion, I do get the rare case that is so reactive that the owner has a means of stopping the behavior, but the dog doesn't retain the lesson. So
Okay.
they'll trigger again. Okay. It's very rare. I get maybe a handful of dogs like that a year.
Okay.
Okay. Um, More often than not, when people do well, when people do the homework, we get it. Okay. When they do the homework, we get it. When they don't do the homework, that's a different story, but that's not on us. Okay.
Right.
But every now and then, and we do get a dog like that that is just so dense or just not retaining, and we try everything, and the dog just doesn't get it. But the owner at least can stop the behavior. Okay.
Okay.
So just to give you an example, I have a client right now who is on 7 out of 12 classes. She had her 7th class on this past Friday, and her dog's resting number, and resting number is like the normal number just for everyday life, is like 85.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, that's high. Yes, it's uncommon, but not too uncommon. So then, and she kept struggling with reactivity, and she was like, the dog keeps lunging and barking. It's not getting better. It's not getting better, right? And I kept telling her, you need to go higher. You need to go higher. You need to go higher. I told her this for like 4 weeks. Okay. Finally, come class 7, I go, how'd it go? She's like, oh, great. I was like, what? She's like, yeah. I was like, how's reactivity? She's like, good. I was like, what happened? She's like, I had to go to 105. And I was
So
like, yeah,
do you all do better?
yeah. So now, and then she said it herself, like, she's like, I just have to trust the methods.
Mhm.
And I go, yes, you have to. I've done this long. I've been doing this for 10 years. So I get it. For the owner, and I work the owner through things, because it's not just a dog. Like, emotionally and psychologically, I have to work the owner through these things, because people, we're not used to physicality anymore, because they have language, but dogs are all about physicality. And then plus people have the notion of like, I'm hurting my dog, I'm shocking my dog, and I'm like, no, you're not. It's a muscle contraction.
Dog or like child or animal abuse or whatever.
Yeah. And there's a fine line between, actually not even a fine line. I think there's like a very clear line. If you're actively using the remote in a way that's not teaching anything with no clear purpose, then yes, you're abusing the dog.
Mhm.
But here, if I go to 127 and I have to, remote the dog harshly, but then they stop the behavior and everything stops, that's the discipline factor of it, you
Yeah.
know. And I tell people, like, dogs bite each other. Like, the e-collar will never match a dog bite, but it's the closest thing that we have. And it's also non-confrontational.
Mhm.
I'm not yelling. I'm not screaming. I'm not angry. I'm not pissed. I'm not frustrated. The e-collar removes all of that from me. Okay. But it just takes the human, time, either emotionally or psychologically, to get over those barriers. It's super common. I get it all the time. I even made a video about it where I was like, the owners were really like shocked, like, oh my God, my dog. But then, you see me work with them, and like, I stop and check, like, how you guys feeling? How you doing? I get it. It's uncomfortable. And then they're like completely 180, and they're like, holy wow, this is like awesome. Okay. So I don't know what Mal's number is going to be.
Mhm.
Mal knows. Okay. Once we start working, we figure that stuff out. That's why I said, if come class 3, you're like, hey man, it's like, it's not working. Like, I went to 45 and she was still being reactive. Right. And then I'll tell you, like, okay, well then now we're going to go to, like, we'll keep bumping it. And I give instructions on how to do so you get there faster. Whether or not you get there faster because of, how you feel about it is totally different. But for me, I get the result when I'm there.
Okay.
It's just a matter of, will the owner follow through and repeat it and reinforce it when I'm not there is the hard part. Okay. Do you have any questions so far?
I have one kind of odd question. Can you, well, it's probably not odd. I'm sure you get it all the time. Can I try the e-collar on like my arm or leg to see how it will feel on her? Like,
Yeah.
I'm okay with it, but I also want to know what I'm doing to her,
No, I used to have people feel it themselves.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not there, so
Well, sweet.
I
That.
don't have it. Yeah, but no, yeah, you'd feel it on yourself. I tell you, go to 10 to 15
Mhm.
and feel it, and then go up as high as you want. I've
Okay.
had people max it out and put it on themselves. I have a couple of clients who are like college guys, and
Oh,
Max out and did it.
yeah.
So I felt there's a model that's the most powerful model. I put on my neck 127 continuous, which is the harshest correction you can ever do,
Yikes, yeah.
and it sucked, but I'm still here.
Okay.
Because yes, I agree that you should know what your dog is feeling, and it also gives you an understanding and a connection of like assessing of where to go and stuff.
Right.
But you have to be thinking logically. You can't be thinking emotionally.
Okay.
Um, because if she ends up needing more power to stop things in the beginning, you might get more yelping. Okay.
Okay.
Ideally, we don't want that. We try to work around that.
Mhm.
But it's like for me growing up, like my mom didn't spank me enough that I got it, but didn't cry.
Right.
I was just spanked, and the crying was a part of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we try to operate as smoothly as possible, but there may come a point, and it's not common, but there may come a point where it's like, okay, being nice isn't and thoughtful isn't benefiting the human, and it's
Hmm.
not even benefiting the dog.
Right, because she's
You're
not.
just like annoying them, and you're not like getting the point across.
Yeah.
Just cut it out.
And the other question I have is obviously dogs don't train as well if they have all this pent up energy, which is totally not her fault. Well, I mean, it's her fault, but like, I'm
Talking about
not.
exercise.
Sorry, what?
Talking about exercise.
Yeah, like, because I want to take her on walks and runs. What?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter? Oh, okay. Because I know she's like hard to focus outside now, even more than before, because I'm only taking her out to go to the bathroom and then straight back in because I knew I had this appointment and I just didn't want
Yeah,
to.
for sure. Yeah, that doesn't matter. I do recommend you exercise your dog. It's good for them. It's good for us.
Right. That's the goal of this.
Right.
Yeah.
But it doesn't affect behavior.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Mhm.
Because it's about discipline.
Okay.
So like my mom was super strict, and like let's say I'm from Florida, so sometimes it would rain for like a week,
Hmm.
and I was a kid, and she could tell I was pent up, but didn't mean I could just run around screaming in the house.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and what you may find is, and this is very common, is what seems like too much energy is really just a lack of discipline.
Okay. That makes
It's
sense.
just a lack of direction. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't bark at that, can't stare at that, can't chase that. It's just a lack of rules.
Okay.
Okay, when there are no rules, everything is an option. And that's where the problems happen. Okay, especially with dogs.
Right.
So and I have a few cases. I have another one. If you go to my YouTube channel, I started a playlist called Training Highlights or something,
Okay.
where I go in depth on particular cases. Like I got one right now. The dog's name is Lake, who came to me from two other trainers. They couldn't do anything, and was very reactive and under stress. Has bitten somebody,
Ooh, yeah.
and the day they came, I don't know if you remember, we had that huge storm that came a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Well, they were on schedule to come that day to meet me at Oz, but I was like, clearly that's not going to work out. So they met at my facility because they wanted to start. We did one class, and the dog's very reactive. You'll see it in the video. And then class two, we were at Oz Park, and I was expecting like we're gonna have to like deal with some stuff. Dog was great.
Okay.
Dog was great, like complete 180. Now it doesn't always happen, okay?
Right.
But like a lot of times it does happen that way. Okay, so like the dogs that are truly like that, truly have behavior issues or emotional issues take time. So when I get cases like Lake, I go, that wasn't even an aggression case because it happened so quickly,
Hmm.
But it technically is, but it isn't because it happened so quickly, like the way I was able to turn it around.
It's just
So,
like,
but she went from an environment that was completely not even real life to real life, and it carried over beautifully.
okay.
So, and it was again discipline. That's all she needed was someone to give her consequence and say these are the things that we don't want, and then she was fine. She's doing really good. So if she is really loopy, she's going to continue to be loopy. You'll just have more control.
Okay. Perfect.
So yeah. Other questions so far?
I don't think so. Not so far.
Let me think here. How much does she weigh?
She's like, what is she? Like 45 pounds or something around there. I can pick her up myself pretty easily, so she's not very heavy.
Or you're just very strong.
Yeah, we'll go.
All right. So defense reactivity,
Mhm.
right? I'm sorry. Where do you see that? Is that at your home? Where do you see that?
Yeah, around the apartment complex, so like, or just the apartment, it's not a complex. Like, uh, there's these two little dogs down the street that the owners have out on their little porch area a lot with like a little like door or whatever. Like it's fenced off completely. And it's a particular problem because it's the path I usually take her to go to the bathroom, and she'll try and like lunge for them. She barks at them a little bit, but usually only once I stop her from actually going towards them. And then she'll try, because she has like the muzzle leash right now, the one that like when she pulls, yeah, when she pulls, it pulls her nose down. So she's smart. So now she tries to turn backwards and back out of that, and I'm like, all right, well, perfect. um, and even if they're not out there, she like knows that that house is coming up and knows that the dogs are there, so she gets very on attention and antsy even approaching it without the dogs there.
Yeah, she's already anticipating. Okay. I was just checking. So that's actually good for you because it gives you controlled context.
Okay.
So the fence reactivity is kind of like leash reactivity, especially if there's dogs behind it or whatever. That it gives you a fixed place to practice. So you set the foundation so that in real life, if you see another reactive dog, for her it's already familiar.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay. Um, in terms of like life with Mal, like if you could have what you wanted, okay, what would that life look like?
I want to go on runs with her. I like to run, and I got a dog to run with me. So ideally taking her on long runs, um, like walks to the park. If I could take her to the park with me while I lie out on a blanket and like read a book or something, she could lie in the grass next to me. I've always been jealous of people who can take their dogs to outdoor patio eating places. You know, like their dog's just chilling there. You can give them a piece of your bacon or whatever, and they're just having a good time. Because obviously, I got a dog because I want to enjoy her and have her enjoy her life, right? I'm not trying to keep her cooped up in a small apartment. So,
Right, companionship.
yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
um, no, I think that's it.
Okay. Um, so that just helps me figure out like what I would recommend program wise for you.
Okay.
So I have 3, 6, 9, and 12-week programs. The 3-week is like super simple. Like I just need to stop the reactivity. The 6-week is
I thought of something. Sorry. The other thing, it used to be easier for me to like go away for a weekend with like an auto feeder and a big water thing in the backyard that she had access to. I didn't have to worry about it. Now, obviously, I'll have to board her somewhere or have one of those dog walking services do their thing. So the peace of mind to know that I can go on a weekend trip and have someone else watch her without thinking she's going to attack another dog in their care.
Gotcha. Well, one, like I have a facility.
Perfect.
She'd be welcome to stay here. We specialize in stuff, so we actually, anytime our clients or even just a dog who's been trained in general, we reinforce training.
Oh, perfect.
You know, so like the dogs that have trained with us here, like we have a few that are here today. You know, if they're social, they get to play. They do duration work, which is like they'll lay still for a couple hours, which is like the patio thing you're talking about. We also do, depending on the weather, pack walks where we'll walk like 6 to 8 dogs at a time. You know, we take them out to get them up, stretch the legs and things like that. And that's just part of our regular day currently.
Cool.
And then, yeah, so like if you did the training and stuff, you know, you would just bring her with her training collar and everything. If she became reactive, we would correct her just like, you know, you would correct her, whatever. But then if also we try to press things a bit. So if we see if there's any sociability there, we'll try to socialize her and all that stuff. Otherwise, if you have someone come watch her, you just have to kind of relate to them the tool, how to use it. I've even had clients set up a session between me and their dog walker so their dog walker can continue. I don't have a problem with that, you know. Um, just not all dog walkers will be willing to follow through with the methods, or the company, like it'll be against company policy. So if that's the case, I usually recommend that people go to like more so self or like a single person run business, because
Right.
it's their business,
Mhm.
that you'd have more luck there. Because most companies, dog walking companies, for the most part, is a no.
Okay.
Okay,
That makes
just um, so so I had 3, 6, 9, and 12 week programs. You're like right between the 6 and 9 week. Okay, so it would be the general layout is 2 classes on the heel. Okay, that's going to be our foundation for for the reactivity. Okay, if that's going well, if you're like, hey Jesse, reactivity is going great, like it's all working, then I go, we just keep teaching obedience stuff. Okay,
okay.
because we figured it out. It was easier than we thought, and then we just continue on like we would. Okay. Um, then after that, if reactivity is going well, class 3 and 4 is typically recall, which is come when called, because every dog should know come when called, in case she gets off leash or whatever.
Right.
And classes 5 and 6 can be, stationary stuff like the going to the patio and have her lay down and not move. Um, the only reason why I say, because we can get that done within 6 classes, no problem. It's the reactivity.
Hmm.
That's the variable. Okay. Um, it's a variable in the sense of, if I give you the tools and go, this is what you're going to do, and then you're having a hard time and struggling with it, we're not going to get it done right away.
Right.
Like the client took her by class. Yeah, by class 3, I was already telling her, you need to do this, but
Hmm.
not till class 7 did she actually do it. Right.
Right.
So then, has she done the 6? She's doing a 12-week program. Has she done the 6-week program? I would have not known what happened. Like we would have been struggling with that the entire program.
Hmm.
So that's the variable. Okay,
Okay.
it's just her behavior, and maybe I hope not, but maybe she's a tougher case. So now we're spending more time, addressing the reactivity. So that's where the 9-week comes into play, because it gives us a few more classes just in case. The way I operate is, like let's say you did the 6 and everything's going great. I teach you as much as I can within 6 classes.
Hmm.
Okay. And it's all to the degree of fully functional obedience. Like I want you to be able to walk with her, no tension, no pulling, no leash reactivity. Ideally be able to go to a restaurant patio, have her be off leash if you'd like, and like have her come back to you, not worry about is she going to run away, or if she does run away, that you're going to get her to return. Okay. Now you do have to do the homework.
Okay.
The methods are simple, but you still have to invest the time. You still have to go out and like do your thing and all that stuff in practice, in order to achieve those results.
Okay.
Okay. But overall, they are very easy to learn and they're easy to do. It just takes time.
Okay.
Okay. Um, the collar that she would need runs about 287 with tax.
Okay.
It's pricey, but it'll last you for years. There's cheaper models, but like I mentioned earlier, they only go to like 10, or they'll crap out after a couple of months, and then you're buying a new one, and then you're buying a new one. So I've been using this model for a particular brand for 10 years. It's the best brand in my opinion.
Right.
It's a 3/4 mile range and fully waterproof,
Wow.
both the receiver and the transmitter. So you don't have to worry about if she's swimming or anything like that. The most common thing that I see is that because it's a rechargeable lithium battery, much like your phone, is that the battery dies out after a couple of years.
Okay.
Okay. So then you go on their website, it's 15, $20. You buy a new one, you replace it, and it's good as new. You go back to doing what you're doing. I've had my collars going on about 8 years now.
Awesome.
So, I spent $500, $600 on it total because I have 3 dogs. So I spent more, but I have them to this day. So,
Okay. Perfect.
okay. Um, So a very common question that I get is, when does the e-collar go away? Okay. In my book, it does not.
Okay.
Okay. And I'll explain that. Do you drive?
I am getting my car back on the 14th. It's out of state right now, and I'm gonna go get it. So after that, I will have my car.
But you drive.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You drive on the expressway? Do
Yes.
you go the speed limit?
Usually a little over, like
Okay.
everybody.
Why?
uh, Probably because there's no consequences. Fingers
No,
crossed.
it's no cop. There's no squad car. There's no
Right.
ticket. So it's called opportunistic behavior. Okay. Everybody does it. Animals do it. It's part of instinctive survival. Um, so think of that e-collar as a cop on a collar.
Okay.
Okay. When it's present, she knows she can't get away with things. When it's not present, she knows she can get away with things. Okay.
Okay.
I know you might hear or people might talk about like, oh, you should, the dog should know better or whatever. I mean, well, one, dogs don't do that. Okay. Because one, she's not meant to be on a leash.
Right.
She's not meant for a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
So we're having to adapt her to our world. That's the biggest thing. Okay. But also humans are the ones that actually know better and they still do shit.
Right.
So like I don't understand why people think their dog is supposed to behave better than they should. Than they
That's true. That's true.
Okay.
Just an
So
animal.
yeah, it's just an animal. Like they're in the present. They don't think past or future or anything like that. Okay. So yes, I've had cases where people completely 180 the dog and they don't need the collar, but it's super rare. And it's also like over the course of years,
Okay.
or they might email me like 3 years later, like, hey, Jesse, and they just kind of check in. They're like, oh, and I also weaned my dog off the e-collar.
Oh,
And in my head, I'm just like, I wouldn't do that, but okay. Like for me, it's not an accomplishment because then I think to myself, what if you're with your dog off leash and some jackass lights off a firework and scares your dog?
right.
Now you don't have means of control.
And just because she's wearing it for 5 years doesn't mean she's having to get it used on her for the past 3 or whatever, right?
That's
Like
correct.
there.
Which is
So,
present.
yeah.
So like mine, I maybe have to touch it once in a blue moon,
Mhm.
because the dogs are trained. It's
Right.
there in case there's an emergency. So like actually, in Logan Square, I was walking my dogs in the evening, and my Pitty is scared of. She hates fireworks,
Mm.
and some dudes literally right next to me just set off random fireworks, and she was on a leash, but then she was wanting to run, like tug all the way home because she's like, I'm done, like I hate fireworks. So I'm like, great, and I was like, I wish I had my e-collar right now because I could tame this down, calm her down a bit, and handle her better. But because of the fireworks, she was spooked, and I had to walk like 2 miles back with her. You know,
Uh, Panicking the whole way. Yeah.
yeah. So, that's the other things that I train for what people don't. I train for like the unexpected. You know, um, anytime anybody's ever gotten back to me like, Jesse, I'm so thankful I did e-collar, it was like some crazy ass shit happened. And like I had one client's dog there at the park, and the dog went after a tennis ball at the same as another dog, and they got in a fight. But she was able to call her dog back, and she had to max out the collar to pull her out from the fight. Nobody got hurt. That same dog was chasing after a rabbit, almost ran into the street. Same thing, 127, make the dog come back. Her neighbor, I trained her dog. Same thing, dog took out from the front door, and because they were getting ready to go to the park and stuff, and the dog just like for whatever reason just booked it. 127, stopped the dog before it hit the street.
Wow.
Had another client's dog in Lincoln Park come across a coyote and was able to call his dog back. He didn't have to remote him, but the dog responded like that, but e-collar, and his wife hated the e-collar in the beginning.
Wow.
She
Okay.
hated it, you know. So, and then like he messaged me like, man, he's like, I'm so happy we worked with you because I don't know what would have happened if we didn't have that recall, because they were nose to nose,
Oh,
you know.
gee.
So like, it's rare,
Mhm.
right? Like I hope it never happens to anybody, but it's life, and things like that do happen. So that's what I prepare people for, because that's when it really matters.
Perfect.
Okay. Um, questions, other concerns?
Mm, so after we have our first meeting, will you have a better idea of obviously if I do my homework, how long it'll take for her to do better, I guess?
It's
Like,
pretty quick.
okay,
It's
cool.
pretty quick.
You can tell right away just the energy of the dog.
Yeah, it's well, not even just the energy of the dog. I mean, it just comes down to the human. Like for me, I can have a dog off leash trained in 2 days.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's very easy. It's very quick. Um, you're learning a new skill set. Okay, you're learning how to train your dog. The dog part is easy.
Hmm.
It's the owner part. Okay, the emotional aspect, just the psychological aspect of it, and just the degree of. What's great is that e-collar requires minimal technical skill.
Perfect.
It's really a lot of common sense. Okay, it's really a lot of common sense and just like logic. And I give you very clear, like, this is the method, this is how you're going to approach it, so that you have, because people will struggle with like when do I know when I need to go higher?
Okay.
Okay, so then I'll go, here's an exercise that when your dog is not listening, that this is the structure of it, so that you'll like learn what to do to figure out when you need to be at the appropriate number. Okay. And typically we learn all this stuff within the first class. And then each class after that, the methods, it's the same concepts. It's just the way it's being applied is different, because we're using it to teach. Instead of walking with you, we're using it to teach come to you. We're using it to teach don't move. So it's simple. Once you get the concept, it's like, oh, wow, this is like very easy. It's just a matter of teaching the dog the skills, then teaching the dog the skill.
How much does the owner's, I guess, like emotions? I know obviously I've watched a bunch of videos. People don't usually go to a dog trainer first off. They try and research themselves, and it usually doesn't work as well. But I've seen a lot of things where like dogs are obviously sensitive to your moods. I'm nervous when I take her out on walks now.
Yeah,
For
that's
obvious,
normal.
is she going to be able? Is that going to affect the training? I guess.
No, because you're not the first person. You're not going to be the last person. Um, you're going to be nervous in the beginning. It's normal.
Mm-hmm.
I coach you through it, but the e-collar removes that.
Okay, because
Okay.
there's action to take.
Excuse me?
Because there's a specific action to take when I'm
Yeah.
getting. Okay.
And when you begin to see how effective it is, and you begin to have successes, and you begin to not or see her reactivity decline, or it's easier to stop her, your confidence goes up and the nervousness goes away. Because the nervousness is, I have a reactive dog, I don't know what to do.
Right.
So then that's why I come in and we do things a little bit at a time. If we get it within the first class and it's 180, like amazing. But I don't always focus on that. I focus on making you really good at using your tools and let you practice. And then the next week we build off of that, and we build off of that, and we build off of that. Okay. But yeah, I've and what's also the nothing but the e-collar is like, I've worked with couples where one particular person would be soft energy, and the other one would be like the more dominant energy. So the dog would really push the softer person.
Okay.
But with the e-collar, we could compensate, because I would just make them have a higher number.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. And then the person that was more strict or more authoritative would have a lower number, because they did not need to make up for that presence. Yeah. So, e-collar is very, what's the word? Not adaptable, but like very, like it can, any situation I can make it work. It's just the human.
Perfect.
It's always that. It's just like the human.
You really train people. You don't train dogs.
The dogs are easy. It's just getting the owners ready. So.
Perfect. Well, I think you've answered pretty much every question I have then.
Okay. So Maria would get in touch with you.
Okay.
She'll go over the pricing and everything and all that stuff. She'll send you the make and model, a link to it. We just send people to Amazon currently.
Okay.
And then I do suggest that when you get it, you review your book, you get familiar with it to prep you for the class, and don't just come in like, nope, haven't touched it. Test it on yourself, start about 10 to 15 is typically where people tend to feel it. I put it here on the palm of my hand and lightly press down, and then you can just escalate it, Okay. You want to use the bumpy button, the nick function. You don't want to do continuous. Continuous is a very strong contraction. We use the nick function. Okay. And then I would send you, once you're confirmed, I would send you some videos to watch.
Okay.
To prep you for the class. One is how to fit the e-collar. One is how to find the dog's working number. Okay. And then the third one is just a rundown of what the collar is, like with the buttons and the functions and things that I do, just to get you familiar with it. And I usually recommend that people watch it just before the first class, because it is again, information. that if they watch it like a week before, then they go in, they like forget everything by the time they're there.
Okay.
Okay? Other than that, I don't really think this is going to be um, uh, too difficult. You know,
Okay.
as long as you do your homework. If you want to just get a visual of how it looks, feel free to check out our YouTube channel. You can either go to my channel and search Reactivity,
Okay.
or you can look for my playlist, training highlights, and that's where I break down like some cases that I've had, and you can see like a kind of a synopsis and like a shorter version of like, you know, a 15-minute video as opposed to watching an hour-long video. Because, you know, I stop and I talk to the owners and stuff like that, so it's not all action. It's sometimes we just stop and it's kind of boring. So that's why that stuff is there. It's just to help inform people. And then Maria would handle all scheduling and accounting stuff,
Okay.
and then she would take it from there. Okay.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Anything else?
Nope. I think that's it. I'm excited.
Good. So if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, Maria will get in touch, and then you enjoy the rest of your day. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. You too.
You're welcome. Bye.